So, for those of you who don't know what progressive web apps are, what progressive web apps feature are the ability to act and function like an app and be able to take advantage of mobile phone functionality without being a native app. And so progressive apps came around a few years ago, and they become exceedingly popular because there's so many ways you can take advantage of apps without having to go through a full development process. So we recommend progressive web apps for you to prototype anything that you're doing so that you're not stuck in some kind of hard coded situation or some kind of situation where you're very early, you don't have a lot of revenue, and then it's going to be very hard for you to pivot, right? And then what's great about progressive web apps is that doesn't actually prevent you from going into the Android or the Google Play Store. You can actually still do that. It is, thank you, Deepa. It is really wonderful, a really wonderful way to be able to test out how you could do your apps without kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So let's just talk about, like, for those who don't know progressive web apps, like, what is a progressive web app?
And you need to decide, should I make it web
Oh, let's
or
start
native?
from the beginning.
You are creating a wonderful app, and you need to decide, should I make it web or native? On one hand, web apps are easier to share via links, and people start using them right away. No need to install anything. Their reach is far and wide. They are multi-platform. On the other hand, native apps are easier to access on your device, load fast, and have more access to hardware capabilities. Good news! You might get the best of both worlds with a progressive web app. I'm going to show you how to do that in 60 seconds. A progressive web app is built and lives on the web, but has native app capabilities. It has features like push notifications, and it is installable on your device. That can sound like an installable website, but there is much more to PWAs. A progressive web app must be a couple of things. First, reliable. It should load instantly and never show the dinosaur. I'm sorry, T-Rex. It should be fast and respond quickly to user interactions. Last, it should be engaging and feel like a natural app on the device. There are two fundamental components in progressive web apps. A, the manifest, which is a JSON file that contains everything about looks, icons, background color, name, among others. And B, the service worker, which is a JavaScript file that works with your browser to create a layer between your app and the network. This allows things like notifications, fast loading, caching, and background sync. By the way, PWAs also work on desktop devices. A progressive web app will give you, with a single code base, the big reach of the web, as well as the engaging features of native apps. For more, check out the links in the description. You'll learn a lot more details about progressive web apps and find a code lab to create your very own. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends.
So we'll go over the code labs and everything. Like I said, in App Camp, that's the reason why App Camp is really exciting, is because we get to go into all these different topics in great detail. And so it's over 6 weeks. And again, I'm going to post the link for the discount in the chat. So be able to do that. And then let's talk a little bit more about Google Play and being able to post progressive web apps inside of Google Play. So, like she mentioned in the video, you can actually be able to put together a progressive web app so it looks and feels exactly like a native app. And part of the reason it can do that is because of a feature called the service worker. Now, we don't have to go into a ton about what a service worker is, but essentially, it's just a script that allows your app to actually do a lot of the same things that a native app does and take advantage of some of the features. It just doesn't take advantage of every feature. And so again, this is a great way to prototype and a great way to understand what your users will do without spending like a ton of money building out a native app right away. So let's go a little bit into this video about the Google Play and the App Store, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the future things that are happening, like AR and VR, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. So let me see here. I'm gonna play that. Oops. Let's go back. Oops, that's almost there. Okay, so we'll just play a little bit of the progressive web apps in play in Google Play.
Hi, I'm Alexander Noe, a developer relations engineer for Chrome OS.
And I'm André Bandarra, a developer relations engineer for Chrome and the web. And we'd like to invite you to join us on a journey that starts with our progressive web app and ends with your app published on Google Play. Looking at brochures can be as fun as the trip itself. Let me show you how the brochure for our trip looks like. Our trip starts with a progressive web app, or PWA. PWAs are just websites, but to meet the high expectations users have for an app, they are designed so that they take advantage of a variety of capabilities, ranging from features like push notifications all the way to devices connected to the serial port. Users expect experiences that are not only fast, but also dependable, and that provide an offline experience and still function even when the user is not connected to the network. Finally, they are also installable, and this installation can be done by either the browser or via an application store, like Google Play. If you're new to PWA, there's great documentation out there to get you started, and a great place to get started is web.dev.
Since PWAs can create awesome web experiences, it is common for developers creating those applications to want to connect with users searching for them on application stores. Besides connecting your app with your users on both Chrome OS and Android, Google Play provides additional services that can further remove friction from users, like taking payments via Google Play billing. To deploy an application to Google Play, you'll need a developer account. Head over to the link here to learn how to create your account.
Now that we are all excited about our trip, it's time to pack our bags. And the recommended way to pack your PWA into an application that can be downloaded from Google Play is using Trusted Web Activity. This technology was introduced in Chrome 72 for Android, and enables platform-specific applications to start a PWA in Chrome in full screen. Today, it's supported by most browsers on Android, and since version 86, it's also supported on Chrome OS. Now, when packing our bags, we often don't know exactly what to bring along. Wouldn't it be great if we had a tool that helps us bring the right clothes and never forgets the toothbrush? Bubble Wrap is a command line tool available on NPM that automates wrapping your PWA in a package that can be uploaded to Google Play, while ensuring that no detail is ever forgotten. To create the application, you're going to pass your PWA's web manifest URL to the Bubble Wrap init command. Bubble Wrap will read the web manifest and generate a configuration for the Android project. You will have the chance to change the values of the default values generated by Bubble Wrap, as well as filling out any missing values. Google Play requires application packages to be digitally signed with a certificate when uploading to Google Play. That is a different certificate from the one used to serve your web application. The command line tool can generate the certificate for you. However, if you're using an existing listing on Google Play, you will need to use the same certificate as the existing application. And don't forget to ensure that the certificate and passwords are stored in a safe place, as you will need them to generate and update the application in the future. The init command generated a series of files in the application folder, including a configuration file and the source code for the Android project. Now, you can generate the package you will upload to Google Play with the bubble wrap build command. You will need the passwords for the signing keys for this step. Finally, in your project directory, you will see a file called app-release.signed.aab. This is the application package you will upload to Google Play. Alex, can you tell us more about uploading this file to Google Play?
Sure, Andre. After you have your web app bubble wrapped, it is time to upload the package to Google Play. After visiting the links shown previously for creating a developer account, we can head over to the console to start creating our app listing and start heading down the road to Google Play. As a reminder, when uploading to Google Play, the package must comply with all of the Google Play policies that also apply to Android applications. This includes changing billing and in-app purchases to support Google Play billing. From the console, click Create App. You will then be presented with a Create App screen. Go ahead and put in all of the relevant details for your app and click Create App again. Once this is done, we go to Main Store Listing under the Grow section and Store Presence section. Here, we add a short description and a full description, as well as upload some graphics that represent our app and give our users a preview of the application. These items are required for your app to be visible in Google Play. You can optionally upload a promotional video of your app to the video line, but this is not required. Next, return to the dashboard and under Set up your app, go ahead and see the next steps. We see App Access is the next task. App Access specifies whether features are available with or without special access. Afterwards, we configure ads settings. If your app contains ads, please specify this so Play can add a flag next to your app for users to alert them to advertising being present in your application. Following ads, we need to get a content rating. Content ratings are used to inform consumers, especially parents, of potentially objectionable content that exists within an app. They also help filter or block your content in certain territories or to specific users where required by law, and determine your app's eligibility for special developer programs. It is not possible to comply with the Google Play family policy right now with apps that are primarily a trusted web activity. If you are interested in joining our trusted web activity pilot for education apps, please check the video description for a link to register your interest. Next, the target audience of the app needs to be filled out. Depending on how this is filled out, it could subject your users to additional Google Play policies. Finally, specify whether or not your app is a news app to ensure the Google Play policies are met with regards to news publishers. Next, we return to the dashboard to provide distribution details of our application. This is information on how users can contact you as well as which app categories your app falls into. This allows Google Play to help users find your app related to a category of apps they may be interested in and provide an opportunity to follow up with you, the developer, as needed. Lastly, we select the countries we want our app to be distributed in. This can help Play validate that your app follows those countries' app distribution policies and allows your app to be rolled out to specific countries you wish to target. Once this is done, we are ready to create our first release. In the Create Production Release screen, we can turn on Play App Signing. This allows Google Play to manage our app signing keys for release to production. It's a secure way to store your app signing key that helps protect you if your key is ever lost or compromised. Fill in a release name that identifies the app to you and some release notes. You can now review and release to Google Play. It may take some time for the app to go through the review process before it will be fully released to Google Play. Congratulations, you're now listed on Google Play. For a more in-depth look at everything we covered, check out the link below.
Okay, so that gives you an idea of kind of how much is entailed in putting together an app that's going to release on the Google Play Store. You have to go through similar things that are on the Apple Play Store. But this is why all of this research and all this data and things we were talking about earlier today, from the UX in planning and your user stories, right? Who is the app for? What are the descriptions they're going to put on there? That actually follows through all the way to posting on the Google Play Store, posting on your website, all these different things, and these things will evolve over time. So you really have to have a comprehensive plan on what your user journey is going to be in the beginning, and then track how it will change and expand over time. And then you start again from the same cycle, the user, the UX, all the way through, right? And you iterate as you go along and add features. But all these things will have to be tracked in a whole ecosystem. So that's how we begin with App Campus. We start looking at your entire user journey, right? And some people don't know what a user journey actually is. But let's give you a few examples. So, one of the things I like to do with our clients is just show them what a user journey, what different user journeys kind of look like, right? So one of the things that I love about the internet, right, and about Google is you can actually type in anything. People don't really think you can, but you can actually see everything. And what's great is user journey. You can actually go to images and you can see many different kinds of user journeys. But I think this one is actually one of my favorites ever. So we'll just open this image in a new window. And what this is it actually shows a user journey for someone who, oh, this is a different one, but this is someone who was recently diagnosed with high cholesterol, right? But you'll see here, we're not gonna go into like all the details of it, but what it does is it shows like what happens to that person by month, right? So this can actually be many different kinds of things. It could be what happens to this user after they go through a certain milestone, right? And then there's different options of what happens. So you can look at what the app is going to do, what the scheduled notifications are, what kinds of things will they do offline, what kinds of things will they do online, and all those fun things, right? So with Data 360, we actually have a program called Growth Lab, and we do a mini version of this. So we go through what happens when you're building awareness, what happens when you're building consideration, purchase, retention, advocacy. And then we do that either email or social media. But you can see you could actually build awareness in lots of different ways, right? So you can have brochures and magazine articles and press releases, right? Everybody's kind of familiar with this to some extent, right? Online word of mouth. You may not have a budget, so you may actually start with word of mouth as your first part of awareness and not brochures and press releases. You may not have or want reviews for some reason, and then you're just going to do maybe awareness starts with word of mouth, or and then consideration is email, and then purchase, retention, and advocacy. So you want to build a way through these things, right? Either through the app directly, through the ecosystem, or your social media websites around the app, through web and social media if you're in stealth mode. There's different ways to do it, right? But you want to look at how you're progressing and then how that affects how you actually go through every single part of the funnel, right? So when you look at a user journey, when you look at a funnel, I highly recommend looking through these different examples, because you can really see that there are just so many different ways that different funnels and different mapping opportunities can happen. And then you want to look at how to map that onto your UX, onto your design, right? What kind of tools are you going to use, right? What kind of features can you get out of Flutter? What kind of features can you get out of this? So really it's about your creativity and your strategy, right? And the data you have about your customers. So making sure you keep that customer journey in mind as you're building out these things, right? And then think about all the different ways that these things can happen. Planning is your best friend, right? Improvising is your worst enemy. So making sure that you take the time to do the planning that's involved and you answer the key questions is critical to growing your business, right? And all of us start kind of the same way, right? We all start personally selling, talking to people, doing user interviews, but there's a point where you'll have to scale. And you have to plan for that in advance, because if you don't plan for it in advance, you actually have to start over and worry about how to scale. So you want to plan for both the personal aspect of the beginning and the scaling part of your business. And all of those things look very different, right? So looking at, okay, what's my phase one? What's my MVP phase? What's my testing phase? And then what is it going to look like in the long run, right? So how many releases are you going to have? How many different options are you going to have? Can you start with progressive web apps and move into native? Can you start with a website and then move into progressive web apps and then move into native, right? So what are your levers and how are you going to design this, or a big part of it, right? And then you use that to talk, if you're not technical, right? You use that as a dialoguing piece to talk with your technical people. And if they don't want to talk about these things, they're the wrong person to build a foundation for your company and for your app. If they're impatient and don't want to have a great foundational conversation, don't want to do documentation, run. They're the wrong kind of company for you. So you want to make sure that you are wrong kind of developer for you. You want to make sure you have the right people who really respect the process and really want to put together the right foundation for you. So that's our speech for today. And make sure you check out all these different materials, especially the customer journey maps on Google search, because it's really critical for you to understand exactly how things can go.